Hello everyone. Thank you so much once again for joining us. So in today's session, we'll be learning Terraform with Copilot. As you can see here, these are the resources where we are going to be created. As you can see, the first one is create resource group with naming convention. The second is create storage account with single container. And third, network that contains that includes such as VNet, Subnet, NSG, and their roles. And we are also going to be creating multiple virtual machines based on the environment in order to create. So even we need to create NICAR as well as the public IP address. And of course, to take the backup of the virtual machines and the storage account, we will be creating recovery service wall with a backup policy. All right. So what we are going to do here is that, as I mentioned, this is about Terraform with Copilot. So we will be doing everything with the help of Copilot. So how we can make use of Copilot and basically, improve our productivity. So we will see in this video. All right, so let's get started. The first, as I mentioned, we are going to create resource group. So what I will do, I have already created a folder. Let me change the name. Maybe okay, let it be. This is the folder where I am going to be writing all my Terraform code. That is Terraform with Copilot. Now this is what I have already cloned as well, so that I can show you. Right now, as you can see, I don't have anything. Okay, it's completely like empty, right? So I want to, as I mentioned, start from very basic. So the first one, what we are going to do is that, as I mentioned, resource group. So in order to create a resource group, as we all know, right, we can refer documents also, we can write based on the requirement also. Say, for example, let me move this one a little down, otherwise, right. Yeah. So example, if I want to create the resource group, I can simply type, you can type like resource group in Azure Terraform, something like that. You can type anyways, or Terraform. Okay. Or you can basically search in many different ways. So as you come down here, you can, these are the things, but sometimes you can see the resource group. So select this one. This is something complex for you, maybe if you type like this. So what you can do instead, if you know always try to type with the provider name. That is the easy, because now you do not know sometimes which one to refer, right? So better what you can do instead. There is also from the Microsoft also, where you can also check. This is from the Microsoft documents. If you want to in case see, this also possibly you can do that. So this also is there. We can see maybe, yeah, you can see something like that, right? So this is also possible, but this is something not that as great as compared to Terraform documents, because here we do not know what kind of resource argument need to be defined. So this is the reason why we will be creating, we'll be referring official documents Terraform. So as I mentioned, let's get the right format. Right? So what I can do, try always the, whenever I want to work with the Terraform in Azure, right, specifically, try with the provider name only. So provider, as we all know, in Azure case, provider name is for Terraform is Azure RM, as we all know, right? Then underscore, type the type of the resource that you want to create. In my case, as I mentioned, we are going to create resource group. So type with the, you can type here, right? Resource, sorry, my bad, resource group, something like that. You type, that's it. Once you type, just enter it. As you enter, you can see, right, first link we get in, just click there. So as you can see here, the first link you clicked it is Azure RM resource group. This is what we are going to create. Now what we need to understand, first thing is that, as I mentioned, we are going to create resource group. Come down, you can copy paste this template also if you want. Otherwise, there is also, like, this is just to create the resource group. And also there is a call argument reference. Go here. Here, what it does is to create particular type of resource, what kind of arguments is something required as part of your resource in order to create successfully, that you can see here. That means in order to create your resource group, these are the information that is required for you to create. That is locations and the name. So as you can see below also there are other options, but in the bracket it is mentioned as a optional. That means it is optional. If you at all want to define it, yes, you can do so, but this is something you should keep in mind. Whatever required in the bracket is given, it is mean that you need to define absolutely without any this thing also mistake. So these two things are required. So now we understood the high level. Now, but let us do with the help of Copilot how we can make use of that. So Copilot, as I told you, if you have, you should know some basic of writing Terraform code. Otherwise, it's quite difficult for you to understand the Copilot things also. But as I mentioned before that, let us go back to the BS code. As I mentioned, this is nothing I don't have. We need to install the Copilot. If you go to the extensions, you type here, you need to install two things here. One is a Terraform because I want to use autocomplete, right? Type Terraform. If you use a Terraform, this is a Terraform, right? So I have already installed it. So that is why I'm able to see disable, and also I can install this also. This also install. So these two things you can install. There are others also, depends on your choice. You can use one of them. All right. This is the first prerequisites. Second is to work in a real time. We can install the Git lens. I think I have told last time also, like or this thing. Now, and this one I have installed it. The reason why I want to install this Git lens is because whenever if I work with the multiple team members, right, with the same type of similar to work basically in the repository in the GitHub, that is right. Somebody will be working on some other tasks, some other person will be working some other tasks, right? So in order to track them, like what kind of changes does by whom, when it was done, everything we can track them. So this is the reason why I would prefer to use this one. You can also start using this Git lens as well. That's the second thing. This is the optional, but this is not part of the prerequisites, but this is an optional. Okay. Third thing, what we need is once you should have a Copilot. You can see there is an option account. There is account, right? Come down in the account. You can see here, right? Right now I have you get an there is an option called logout. Now in your case you can Copilot log in with the Copilot. You get an option, just log in here. Once you log in, what happened before that, you should also have the Copilot username and password. That means you should have the account ready already in advance. So in my case, yes, I do have the Copilot already. So sorry, not Copilot, GitHub. So maybe okay, directly I can go my account, no issue. Right, so I have already account, as I told you, I have already account. This is account, so you have to sign in with your account, whatever name you given. If you go to profile also, you can see, right? So whatever name that you given, that you can access this. Basically you need to log in with your ID here in the BS code. Once you log in, what it does is automatically, as I mentioned, there's an option to select the Copilot, log in with the Copilot. For me, it is asking me to sign out because I don't want to sign out for now. I have already logged in, sign in, that is why. Okay. So in your case, you can sign in. Then you can use this Copilot. So once you log in with your GitHub account, this is how the screen is going to be. Here on your left right side, you can see something like this logo, Copilot. Now, if you see here, there is an option, open chart, edit inline chart, quick chart, configure core completions, manage Copilot. There are so many. This one thing we need to understand. Second thing is, even as I told you, here also if you want, you can check there also some other configuration. But these are, you don't have to do any changes here. Let it be as it is. What you need is, here you click, as you click here, you can open a chart to start it. If you open a chart, as you click open a chart, you can see there is an option called ask, edit, and agent. Right now we are going to be the ask to query something. Okay, and also we are getting the GPT 4.1. You can also change if you at all need to change for any reason, right? So what we can do here, we can in fact write with the help of Copilot everything, but let's not use everything using Copilot for now, because first we need to understand the fundamental in order to create certain resource, right? So we will focus with our Copilot right now, just one resource. So what we do in the folder, I am going to create, as I mentioned, in order to create any resource, what are the minimum record, like what are the minimum that file extension we need to have in the real best practice, basically in the real time. That means the first one, I need to have a main.tf. Main.tf contains your actual resource type of, say for example resource group you want to create, or maybe you want to create some other resource. Let's say I would say instead of resource group we can think of storage account. But in my case, let's say I'm going to create everything here. Second thing is I would be needing next is again file variables. This will be the second priorities. Variables. It is not variable, it will be s. Okay, variables in your this thing. Even you can mention as the variable, no problem, but then try to use variables, because within the variable, variable file, you will have a multiple type of variables. That is why you have to use the variables. Sorry, my bad, spelling is wrong. Please correct me, okay? Variables.tf. What is the third thing I need to define? Third thing is output. Outputs.tf. Even why this output is used? Because whatever resource I'm going to create, this resource, if I want to expose and use elsewhere, that means these informations, if you want to pass to some other resources without having the output value, I cannot use this resource. Say for example, I'm going to in main.tf, let's say I have a storage account. This storage account I want to use elsewhere in your Terraform. If you do not define the variable, sorry, outputs.tf, and pass the value of particular resource, you cannot use the resource itself. Remember this one. Then what is the third thing? Third thing, it is actually this for now it maybe it is optional, but in the real time it is must. Okay, that is your tf bars. So you can give anything like a tf bars dot tf bars, but for now we will give terraform dot tf bars. This should be default name, or you can give a name, a particular environment name, let's say dev dot tf or something like that. But in our case, let's only write terraform.tf bars. I'll tell you why we need to write this one. This is the minimum to write any Terraform code. This is the minimum that file extension we need to define best practice when you write Terraform code. That means main.tf, variables.tf, output.tfs, and tfvars file, terraform.tfvars file, or you can mention as .tfvars file. Okay, now we have understood what we need to write, right? So as I mentioned, the first resource is about the resource group. So in order to create the resource group, there are two ways I can create. One is using completely Copilot. Second is with the help of like documents. Let's start with the documents first. So as I mentioned, documents we have already basically seen that here, right? Sorry, where is that? Here. So I can copy paste this also everything, right? If you want, I can copy paste or I can type manually. This way, one way I can do. That means only the variable I need to change it. Second way, if I don't want to do this one, what I can do is I just commented out for now. You can do another way is you can use resource, because whenever you try to remember one thing, there is something called a resource always starting. Whenever you create any resource, whatever issue at the first, that is a resource block, right? Whenever you get to see resource at the first level, that means it is going to be created, the particular resource going to be created. In my case, as I mentioned, we are going to create the resource group. This is why the first thing what we can see is resource. So it is not just about the resource group, it can be any other type of resource. Okay, so example, what I want, as I mentioned, I'm going to create the resource group itself. I can type resource. This is, I'm getting this option. Why am I getting this one? Because I have installed the extension, that is a Terraform extension. This is why it automatically they will format the syntax for us. Now, as you can see here, now I need to define the here same like that. I need to define the type of the resource. So as I mentioned, to define the type of the resource, first I need to define the provider name. Now, what is the provider name now? Now we know it is Azure RM, right? So this is a name by default, like you can see that we got. And also this is called as a reference name. This is something whenever you want to call this particular resource group, you will be calling out with this name itself. That is any name that you can give, depends on your choice, but let's keep things simple. So I'll give it for now maybe my RG for now, right? with this name we'll be calling it. Okay, then what I need is, for now I will keep it as it is. So if you see difference, nothing difference, right? Same as it is we are getting. So I will remove this one. As I told you, you can copy paste everything and modify it, else you can type manually. I would rather maybe encourage you all to practice by writing by yourself, right? Because if you copy paste everything, you don't understand the syntax, everything. But when you write by your this thing with the help of some extensions and all, that will help you a lot. So I will remove this one for now. Now, as I mentioned, we also need to define the variables, a provider.tf also. The provider.tf also, or maybe the providers need to be defined. I mean, we can define in your main.tfs as well if you want. Otherwise, you can have a separate folder as well. I mean, folder in the sense file with the this thing, desired name. Let's say I can give it this name. This will be quite easy if you can maintain the provider.tf. Normally, you can mention providers or provider. You may have in the real time multiple providers, not just the Azure, Terraform, maybe Kubernetes provider and other providers, let's say Grafana providers. We can have a multiple providers. So instead of just defining provider, I would rather prefer to use the providers. Okay. Okay. Now providers, as I mentioned, we know we don't have to remember the provider block everything because there is a documents. So what we can do is, as I mentioned, every single resource, this is the we are going to create resource group, right? Here, if you go use providers, use providers. So if you see here the use provider, these are the reuse provider that you will be seeing here. The first one, as I mentioned, is here this thing that is your provider that you can copy everything. So you can see two different things. One, the first is provider require provider. Second is just a providers. This thing that is this thing. Now depends on your choice. You can copy all this. If you don't need, then you can only copy this one. Both works fine. There may be the difference. What is the difference in the sense? This, if you can take a look closely, let me copy this one better, right? Let me copy this one. This is for provider, right? So what difference you get to see here? The first thing, it's about the, that means this particular record providers, I'm able to specify particular Terraform provider, right? What version I need to define, so I can have this kind of this thing if you want. Otherwise, we are using, as we are using Terraform provider, Azure RM provider, right? So this is why I can use this also. So I can use a Copilot extension also, or I can reject it. In my case, as I mentioned, I don't want to do anything, so I will use as it is. But here, as we are using the Azure provider, Azure RM provider, so I'm going to use the here feature blocks. Okay, so here it is empty. Now I will keep this one as part of this thing. Okay, this is how it should be. Right now, this is the provider we need for now. This is a minimum provider that we need actually. This thing. All right, now we understood defining the provider. So I don't have to remember everything, but then know what you need to do, right? So done. First thing, what we did was we define everything. Then we also provided defined it. The third thing, what we need is this one. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to create the resource group first. Now this resource group is okay, but I cannot use this name, right? I don't want to use this name. So what I want instead is I'll be creating multiple, sorry, I'll be creating a variable so that I can pass this value dynamically. That means instead of defining the value in your what they call resource block itself, I can pass in my variables, and also the actual value can be passed in the TF words as well. That I will come to the point later, but for now let's define the variable. So one thing we need to remember, whenever I try to create this particular resource group, I need to know how many, you need to understand the situation now. That means you need to ask yourself how many resource group you're going to create, whether you're in your project or in your real time, maybe whenever you, whichever company you work, whether according to the requirement, whether you want to create only one resource group or you want to create multiple resource group. If you say multiple resource group, that means there are two choices. That means there are two options we have it to create. One is, let me keep here maybe. We have two options. Two options. One is using two options we have, right? Sorry. two options we have to create multiple resource group. As we all know, right? One using what? Using two options we have two options, right? Using count or forest. That means in order to if you have a requirement to create multiple resource, we can use this thing. But if you don't want to create multiple, then you can keep as it is. Just define the variable, that's it. But in your case, if you want to create multiple resource group also, then there are two choices we have. One is a count, second is a forest. Now question you need to ask yourself, how are you going to manage this resource group? That means whether you want to manage the resource group with the random resource group name, or maybe you want to define the resource group name according to the company standard. That you need to think, or maybe you should be aware of. So let's take a look in our case. We will focus something the real time base. That means I can use a count also, no issue with the real time also. We can use a count. Again, as I mentioned, depends on the situations. When can we use a count and a forest? Now we will understand. I will create two resource group. One is using forest, second is using count, so that you can get a proper idea. Right now we have not used any copilot. It is we need to understand the basic first, right? Now, as I told you, we are going to create using count. So what I need first thing, I need to define the variable using count main. Now that means what I want is I need to define the resource. Now whenever you create, if you want to create the count, that means what kind of variable I need to define, that also you should know. Okay, so mostly for now thing, whenever you want to create count using count main, okay, using count using count, right? What you need in your variable using count, in your variable type must type can be or must be, you can mention, can be such as, you can anything, object or list we can define, or you need for now. Let's not make you too much this thing details. For now, just understand we can have a this many using count or forest. Okay, now okay, let's go one by one now. So as I told you, let me go to the variable. So first let's focus on the using count. Count means how many numbers you need. I'll go here variables. Now, as I mentioned, what I want is I want to create the resource group using count. So the variable name can be anything that you wish to give. In my case, I can give a RG as a resource group. I mean variable name, right? Here, now it is asking, who's asking this one? This is asking by the Copilot. Now, if you use the Copilot option, you can use like this. But if you take a look closely, it is asking string. But we don't want to use this, so, and it is asking descriptions, type, default, everything. But whatever the Copilot is given, even this is correct, but then I don't want to use this is not good for me. So what I want is my requirement is quite different. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use using count, right? So let's not remove everything. I don't want anything, so I just keep as empty. Here I will type as a just type, then name mention here as an object. Now, as I mentioned, if you take a look closely, for the resource group, I need to define that is a name and a location. Even same thing, if you can go here, the arguments also, sorry, here, right? You can see, where is that? Sorry, I think I went to the here. Let me type 1 second. I think here, right? Sorry, where is that? Let me go back. Okay, now if you go to the arguments, Now, as I mentioned, these two things are required. So that means it is clear right now. This also will be string because location is mean it is a string. We should know the data type as well. So location string and also the name also string. That is the reason why I'm also defining here as part of the object name as in string, locations also automatically they suggested I will use it. That means string. This is the I1. Question is, why am I using this as an this thing, right? Object. What is object first? Object is nothing but it is a single attribute. Now, when I say single attribute, it simply says that it is a one property. It is not multiple properties. I'm saying one property. One property mean for certain persons informations. In our case, it is about the resource groups information. That is your location and the name. That means one resource group property that is. So this is why I have to mention. But another way, even I can define instead of the object, I can define the type as a string. Instead of the type as an object, I can define as a string and pass the whatever values location as string. But that is not something I would like to define because I want to define as an object because as a properties for the resources group that is name and location, I want to gather them. This is the reason why I'm using as an object, and this will be the in the real time also. This is how you will be using it, object, if you want to create this thing. All right, this we answer. Now let us do one more using this is for using count, right? I can mention maybe here. This will be used using count. Sorry, let me comment this one first. Using count. Okay, this will be using count. Second thing now I will mention using forest. Using forest now. See now automatically this data. See because this is a copilot, right? They understands what you are basically need. If you just remember just now, see I type this in by understanding this data type. Whenever I say again using the syntax, if I use a forest this thing automatically the copilot suggests me. How is it possible? Because it trained some metadata, like trained data is already available. So based on the code that you are going to write, or maybe based on the code it is available in your Terraform or in your this thing, they are trying to understand and then try to suggest you accordingly. So yes, of course, this is what I need. Or instead of writing this thing, I will write myself. I don't want to use Copilot as I mentioned. I will type now, same as it is just before like that. Just mention the, in my case, I'll mention resource group this time because variable name cannot be same as it is. So I'll mention as resource group. Even it is still asking me, I mean, giving me some suggestion. I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to use myself. I don't want any Copilot's help now. So what I want is same just before like before. Now I can type equal to. Now there is a, as I mentioned, try to use a Copilot. You can get auto basic complete as well as the kind of the suggestions. This is kind of Copilot why we are using it is like a assistant, your co-assistant, right? Where that means you're trying to do something and they will based on your data, existing data, whatever you have, you're going to do, they will try to analyze that and they're trying to suggest you, help you basically to improve your productivity. So this is the reason why I would say try using Copilot. Now, as I mentioned, of course, I'm going to use a forest. So I need to use a map for this, right? So map, then I can use this one. Okay. Then what do you call this one? Object. Now I can define the name. Let's say name. I can define. See again, Copilot is suggesting I don't want to use, but I will type myself. String. Same thing. Location also string. Right. So yeah, this is the minimum requirement. So what you see default right now, what you can see basically here, the changes you see here, whenever using common, that is you have to use the object or list out object. And this is for a map mean you always try to use a forest. If you want to define the forest, then the variable must be map of object. That's the first thing. Now you understood it here, but if you notice the data type, We cannot just simply modify something and change. If you see that the types are changed now, here 2, here 3, closing bracket, right? So you have to carefully check. Depends on the variable, the data type you define, the data syntax would be changed gradually. All right. Now we have understood this much. Now question, what is the next? Next is, where is your actual value, that is your resource group name and location, where are you going to pass, right? Before that, I'm going to also define the environment also in my variables. Environment variable I have already defined before. I don't want to type again, so I will use my existing variable. Maybe let's see, right? I have it already, so why to again this thing? So I can use the same variable, environment variable, so that it'll be easy for us to this thing. If you go to the any variable, maybe let's say I can go to modules, then now you can go any one resource, because every resource I'm using the same environment variables. Even a tag also I'll be using it, because yeah, sorry, yeah, Mani, you're trying to say something? Okay, this thing, as I mentioned, I'm using the same this thing. The reason why I want this one is because, as I mentioned, this will be the best practice, same format, how we are going to use same thing. That means this also environment I mentioned as an object, then string and everything. So that is how same thing. As we all know, we are going to be using a tag also, right? Tag is why required, because every single resource that you create, it should be easy to manage them, especially for buildings and other stuff. So I'm going to define a tag also. In the real time also, tag also try to use as it is. Okay, that will be a map of string. And also here, this is the, you all try to use this one. It will be exactly in the real time also, the tag, syntax and everything will be used. This can be different, depends on the situations, but then you try to understand. For now, this will be the one we are going to use it. All right, now we have the environment variables, tag also we have, then we are going to use count as a for the resource group. All right, now what is the next I want? Next is, I have just defined the type of the resource. Where is my resource group information? Right now I do not have anything. That means I need to define the resource group name and the location, right, where I'm going to define. Even if you want to define within the variable also, I can do so. So how can I do? Within the same line, uh, within the the type, in the within the same type line, if you see here, the whole, I just enter here in the same line of this thing. Now I can mention, see here, default, I can pass it like that. That means whatever name I want, I can pass it here. Same thing, if you want to pass the location also, whatever location I can pass it within the TF bars also by using default value. If you don't want that one, you can ignore. Same way, if you don't want, if you want here also, see here. Now, if you want to define another resource group also, maybe this thing, you can see here, like this, right? So as I told you, this is a map of object, right? So you can define like that. Sorry, my bad one. Yeah, like this. That means this is for the resource group 1 properties, this is for resource group 2, resource group 3, like that I can define. Defining in your variables file also for the actual value, also nothing wrong, as long as you're learning as a like learning new, right? But then when it comes to the in the real time, you cannot define like this will not help you, and you cannot not supposed to use like this. So rather, what you can do is, instead of defining the value here, rather you can pass the in your tier file. This is why I have created the terraform.tier file. The reason why I'm not supposed to use here is because this is not the reusability. That will not help you in terms of reusability and also modelizations. How? Because if you imagine, now you have multiple changes, multiple things, you cannot go and change every single resource for its value, right? That is something impossible, because you'll be having a lot of environments, lot of basically resources. Definitely this is not something that you're going to be doing it. This is the reason why what we are going to do is that instead of this thing, what I can do is I can remove this value here. I'll remove here, I don't need here. So this value can be passed where then? Yeah, this value I can pass directly. Let me make as it is before.
Okay, so then how can I where can I pass? As I mentioned, we will be passing the actual value in our TFVers file, but in our case we mentioned as a terraform.tvars. They could be like terraform dot dev dot tvars, or maybe terraform dot prod dot tvars, depends on the environment possible. But question is, by then Hriyen, why did you mention terraform? Why didn't you mention dev dot tvars file, right? All right, if you mention terraform dot dev dot tvars, that is also absolutely fine, nothing wrong. But then you need to understand the situation here, because we do not have multiple environment here, we have only one environment. So if you define multiple environment, that time we based on the environment, then only you have to define. But in our case, we do not have multiple environment, we are just having one default environment. It could be any environment, let's say dev environment, right? And whenever you have a value, that is the variable value, whatever, if you can see here, whatever data is there, these all data types are, only the data types are defined. As I mentioned, in the best practice, you will in your variable.tf always you will be define the type of the data, that's it. In our case, this particular resource group name mentioned as object, under here we define the data type, just like that here defined, and also this is another data type, right? You are just defining the data type, but then while passing the actual value of such resources, you are going to be passed in your tvars file, that is your terraform.tvars. So the question, as I mentioned, about the instead of the terraform.tvars, why don't you be use terraform.dev.tvars or maybe any other, right? Because if you want to use in that situation, you have to write a script to load particular or to accept certain tvars file. This is a default. That means if you do not define anything, by default, whatever value, I mean, whatever variables type you define, that value can be passed directly in the terraform.tvars. That is the default behavior by Terraform. So if you try to use some other dev dot something like that, this will not work. Trust me. Okay. So that is why. But if you want to use the based on the environment, then in your pipeline, then you need to change it. Let me show you this also. I'm not going to explain, but then I just giving some idea to you. Example, if you can see here, this is a module. This is the real-time base that I would be working. I mean, I was showing it. As you can see, this is a module. We are not talking about module now. That we will discuss later. For now, okay. Now you can see network ladder. We have all the main.tfs, output variables. We have everything, right? So as you can see, this is all output defined. So same way, the what is this thing? What I was discussing about. Okay, TFVers file, right? So if you see here, this is under what? Under pipeline, under repository, we have a pipeline, then we have a module. Under module, we have multiple modules, type of the resource, let's say network module, and then we have a resource group resource group module, then storage account, then virtual machine module we have. And in the same line, basically within the module itself, I have main.tf, provider.tf, terraform.tf words file, variable.tfs. So these are there, and also we have pipelines. Pipeline basically to automate everything with the help of this thing, YAML file. So these are syntax. Now, if you can see here, there is something called a template. Template, they are going to use this template. There you have to load with the help of template. Because we have multiple TF file, right? How Terraform would understand which particular TF to be picked up if you have multiple environment? This is the reason why we need to basically organize in such a way that only particular TF should be pulled out. That way I have to define. If you see here, this one. How is it defined? You just mentioned template as here, this thing. This is in the root module. You have a pipeline dot, I mean, Azure pipeline dot YAML. But exactly this is about the Terraform dot YAML, right? If you go here under pipeline, as I mentioned, this is how in the real time also when we need to define the structure. Now, as you can see here, I have a common, under common, if we expand here, I have a templates concept here, because template, why we are using it? Template will help you to basically reuse just like a module in Terraform, right? When it comes to the tab YAML also, or maybe in the pipeline things, we use a lot of templates, because we cannot you write the same configuration or maybe same commands or multiple big script every single time for every single use case, right? So what we do is that depends on the scenario, depends on the tools that we are going to use. We are going to write in one particular location and use them across the environment. I hope this is clear, right? So as I mentioned, this is the pipeline, this thing parameter we have defined it, and this is the Terraform. This basically, as we all know, whenever I want to work with the Terraform, I need to initialize the Terraform, I need to validate, I need to plan, I need to format, I need to then deploy, and so on, right? So these all steps are defined here. But when it comes to the deployment to the Azure DevOps, we also need to have something called as a backend, right? So as you can see here, this is basically, this is for the Terraform.yaml. You can, I have defined the parameters, then job, it has to be checked out, and then it is going to install the Terraform. That is latest Terraform going to be installed. And this is the thing that I was discussing. Whenever I use the Terraform init for the first time, when it comes to the Azure DevOps perspective, right? We need to also define your like service connections and the backends. Backends basically to store your state file. If you're working locally, you can store your state file. That is a Terraform state file can be stored locally. But then when you're working with a remote, that means in Azure cloud or maybe sorry, what I call using DevOps or anything. So you need to centralize your state file somewhere so that everybody can be accessed and use the resource as and when required, as long as they have access for particular group of or set up user. This is why you can see the beacon usage group name, storage account name, and container name, and everything. But then you cannot see the actual value. Why not seeing the actual value? Because the actual value is passed elsewhere. Because the value, I cannot simply pass the actual value here because this is again another security breach, right? So I cannot define the actual value here. Rather, I'll be using elsewhere. But while calling them, I'll be using with the help of, if you see here sample, right? This is basically to call with a variable name. This will be the variable name that I have passed elsewhere, so I can call with here. So where is the variable now? That also we'll discuss, right? Same thing for the key also, that is the state file. And then we will come to the second. This is given some condition validation step. So as I mentioned, to validate everything, we cannot simply validate because there are so many changes, so many things are there. You need to define some conditions. Based on some condition, it has to be validated. What is the conditions? It says if the conditions parameters equal to this in this location, if it is a validated, then this task need to be done. That means it is saying that if equal to these parameters, that is that this particular name is there, that where the value is this one, then to do this action. Just like that, another is also similar concept. Another condition, if plan is mentioned based on these conditions, then to do or to execute this command and so, right? So the third thing here, carefully check here, Terraform apply. Terraform apply, if you see here, I can use it, right? Same concept here also. Apply environment, I need to apply. I need to also have the environment service connection RM. So then I need to define the TFVerse file. Like I need to define the TFVerse file, right? Because as I mentioned, they'll be having multiple TFVerse file. Yeah, Mani, please go ahead. Mani, are you able? Mani, I'm audible. Okay, maybe some missed. Okay, no problem. Fine. So
Hriyen.
the TFVerse, yeah, please. Yes, audible, audible. Yeah, Mani. Mani, hello. Hello. Can other confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, bro, you're audible.
Okay, maybe some issue with money. Okay, anyway. Okay, no problem. Let's start. So I was saying, we all know whenever I want to deploy this thing, right, I need to pass the TFVerse file also because, as I mentioned, we have multiple environment. How Terraform would understand which TFVerse to be picked up, right? So this is the reason why I have to pass with the help of this variable name. Okay, and also there is a backend also need to be there, and it should be auto approve. So depends on that. Same way, there is an answer for destroy also. This destroy is optional. You can ignore for now because I have defined it because I want to destroy it. Okay, so this is defined. So these all steps are defined. This is part of your Terraform commands or to execute, to deploy the resource using Terraform. So these are the prerequisites. I mean, prerequisites in the sense commands where you need to define. So this all this thing in your Azure pipeline. That is why I have called it. If you see here, where is the template? Under template in the under pipelines, pipeline we have a common templates. We have templates. Under template we have a. If you see here, Terraform.yaml, because under here we have defined a template. This is basically whatever we are calling that, because we are going to deploy the resource of the Terraform, right? I mean, yeah, Azure resources using Terraform. So that is why all the steps are defined in the Terraform.yaml. That is why I'm calling this template to use in the pipeline as well, and with some conditions. Okay. Okay. In this case, yes, you can use a same way as I mentioned our TFRs file. We have an environment. In the environment, if you see here, you can see dev environment, production environment, staging environment. We have multiple environment. For each environment, we'll have a pipeline related. Let's say I'm talking about variables. I mean dev environment. Let's say all the variables I have defined a variable group, TFVers extension, TFVers file, TFVers, because this is for only dev, right? So I have to pass this one dynamically. This is only to pass through the uh, what is a particular environment, that is a dev environment. Same way, I also need to have a TFVers file, because as I mentioned, if you can see here, Terraform dot dev dot TFVers I have it, because that means this is only for the dev environment related configuration. So if you want to change anything, you can change it. So this will be, that is how we have to call for each environment. But when comes to the here, I cannot use the dev dot here because we do not have the concept called the pipelines or the module here. So that is why I'm using simple Terraform.tfbars file. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next now. Okay, now next, as I mentioned, this I have to pass the value. Now let me take the here, because as I mentioned, I have to copy this environment name and this also, because this is environment name I have already copied right from here. So I have to paste it here also, because I need that value. Same thing for the tag also. I will be using a tag, right? So I can simply type tag tags. So I'll be using the same tags, because I don't want to define again and again, because I just want to use it. So to save some time, okay? So these two are okay, I hope so. TF bars, spelling is wrong, that's the thing. Maybe TF words, right? TF words. You can tell me the spelling is wrong, that's why now coming, okay? Now you can see these two things are good. Tag I got and then environment variable I got. What is next? Now we are going to refer this thing only. Now, as I mentioned, so we have to pass the value. This value I need to pass. Resource group name, resource group, sorry, RG name and the resource groups. I have to pass the value. How can I pass the value now? So call with this name, same thing. So if I want to pass the value for the this one, first one, that is using count, I can copy this name, go back to your here. I can simply type here. Now, as I mentioned, this is only the one object, so I can give any name that you want to give. My RC, whatever name. In my case, I can give as a Pulse RC example. Pulse RC. In my case, location. Let me look. Let keep the location as it is. Okay, this is for the. So that's why I have to copy. That means this is only one single block, right? Same thing for is. Now I have to use this thing. For is also saving, as I told you. See, now I have not I have not done anything. I have not done anything, right? Automatically Copilot is going to suggest me. How is it possible? Because that understood my data, what basically I'm going to do it. Because by understanding just the variable, how smart they are, they're able to suggest me now, right? So question is, do I really want this one is my thing. But if at all you want, you can. Yeah, in my case, okay, let it be. I want to keep as it is. How this name is coming, let me show you. Same as I told you, whatever variable name we have, that is a resource groups, right? Same thing if you here, that you can see resource groups. Here is RG name like that. they have understood because of this data type. That means they know what value to be passed by understanding this data type. This is why I said know the variables, what kind of variable you to define based on the situation. So good. Let's go now. In my case, what I want is first, in my case, as a single object, let it be as it is. In my case, RJ1, 2, 3. In my case, maybe let it be this name. I'm okay with this name as it is, right? So no problem. That means we have understood how to define the variable using count and for each also, right? Now, what is the next now? Next is in your main.tf, how can we make use of this one? Now, let's go with the maybe using as I mentions. Let's go using count first. Using count means always try to how can I use a name? How can I call the name? Always try whenever I use a count, see how smart they are. The automatically they are calling it. That is a correct actually. So whenever you're actually using count, right? Sorry, whenever you're using the name basically, I can use this thing. Where dot first I will define the count before defining the count. What I want is okay. First I will define this one. Basically, let me define the as an object, right? Object I have still it is an object right now. Object means as we know single property. Now in the single now also with the help of count also I can create multiple resource group, right? Now in order to do so, this all value how is it coming because this is coming all from the variable. If you see here under rg name location, this all we have defined here, right? Here under rg name we given the name string location string the button actual the value we have passed it here. So this value will be picked up. Now question is still it is we are not using for each now. Sorry, count. If you want to use count, I can simply use count. That means count specifies how many number of resource group that you want to create. Count is equal to 10, let's say. That means 10 different resource group going to be created. But then one thing we need to know is whenever I use a count, right? Here, let's say, okay, I will not use 10, of course. I can use maybe if count can be in many conditions I can use. Count I can mention, let's say, if the environment is dev, then create one resource group. If it is some other environment, not to create. So basically, we can change the behavior of the Terraform also, depends on the requirement. So also we can define the based on the requirement. Let's say I want to create 10 resource group or maybe 100 resource group, I can define. If you don't want to do, let's say I want to create, let's say if it is a non-prod, let's say environment, let's say dev environment, you create another one resource group. If it is other than non-prod, let's say other than like dev environment, that means staging or maybe pre-prod or maybe prod. That case, let's create 10 means even that is also possible. We can change the behavior of the this thing resource with the help of count. But then using for is we cannot use so. For is it will only map whatever value that you have defined it or whatever desired name that you want according to the resource position. In my case, let me take one resource group like this also it will work, no issue. That means only one is going to create. But trust me, nobody is going to use like this thing as in count is equal to 10. So rather what they do is if you okay, let's say I will mention as 5 for now. I can mention here also nothing wrong. But then one thing if you remember now, that means this many resources going to be created. Then what about the what I call name of the resource group? As I mentioned, this cannot be this thing, right? Now, whenever I use a count, but whenever I use a count, I have to use what? Something called as, can somebody tell me what I have to define in here name count dot index. Do you remember? Right? So we have to define the count dot index here. Same thing, location also I have to use a count dot index because we are using the account of this thing. So I'll use the count dot index. If you just define count and the 10 will not work. So whenever whether you want to create as 0 also, if you mention count is equal to, then 0 also, then 0 normally we don't doesn't make sense. Maybe and you can give any number. If you mention 1 also, still you have to define the count or index. That should be false. Remember. Let's say, but in my case, what I want is I will change the behavior of the Terraform. I don't want to create just one resource. What I want is, or maybe I don't want to create just 5 resource. Rather, what I want is I want to create 5 resource group only when the environment equal to environment name is equal to let's say dev environment. If it is a other environment, not to create the resource group. Is it possible? Yes, with the help of count we can do so. So how can I do that? So we need to know the variable first. Okay, let's say I know the variable where environment, right? That is the environment name we define, and door. Now if you go here tfworks file, sorry, where is the variable? Yeah, variable here, right? Now what I want is my condition is if the environment variable environment name is, let's say environment type is let's say, yeah, environment dot name. If it is a particular, you can, or type you can give. Okay, let's me give type. If environment type is, let's say dev, then create. Otherwise not to create. We can do that also. Or maybe if you want to say if the primary region is there, then only you create like that. So many ways, many situations we can use in different scenarios. But as I told you, in my situation, I'm going to define whenever there is an environment type is known as dev, then only the resource group going to be created. Otherwise not to create. Or maybe it is going to create 2 or 3, depends on that. You can make use of that. So let's do that. So you can mention under environment there is a called type. Okay, I can mention one. Now type, you can give an argument whether equal to or not equal to. As I mentioned, I want to define if it is dev, then only create, otherwise not to create. That means I have to create two different scenario, whether not equal to and equal to. In my case, I can use equal to, because I mentioned if it is only the dev environment to create, that means equal to dev. You can see, right? What it says now, that means it says now if the environment type that is dev, if that is equal, that is if that is a dev, they'll check. If that is a dev, question marks mean it will check whether it is dev or not. If it is dev, then they will create 1. Otherwise not to create. Or if you want to mention here, I can change the behavior. Let's say if it is dev environment, let's create 2, 20, or maybe 10, let's say. I'll not create 10, of course, I will create 2 maybe. Okay, that means if it is a dev environment, I will create 2. Otherwise, if it is anything other than, let's say, other environment, then it is not going to create 0. 0 mean no. You can see this one I will use because that is how it is. That's it. Create 2 resource groups if environment type is dev. As simple, right? Now I hope this is clear. That is one situations. Now same like this, you can also define a tag also. Tag is already defined as a map of strings, right? So I can simply call with the tags, that's it. Now whatever tag that you have listed in your TFers, this many tags, right? This will be basically, yeah, this one will be used because I have passed it everything, right? Okay, now this is good. Now let me go to the next one. Next is using for is. Otherwise, let's not use for is for now. Okay, otherwise I can just now see. Now automatically, whenever I use the this concept, right? Automatically the Terraform understood what basically I'm going to do because it is suggesting me Copilot. How Copilot is helping me is because of the this one. Where is that? This one. Because I clearly mentioned as a map of object, right? So and also define here. So Terraform would definitely, sorry, the Copilot would definitely check your existing code and see what they can do, what they can, how they can improve that. So in my case, yes, this is what I want. So whenever I using for is now, as I mentioned, I don't want to use I don't want to type again, so I will just use the auto tab. There is a tab button, use it. Done. Your work is done. That means how simple it is now. How here this is for using count, this is for forest. Here also, whenever I use a forest, I will be calling with the type of the resource group variable, whatever you call here. This name, right? You call whatever value you have for each object can be passed here with the help of forest. Okay, now you can, this name can be changed. I can give as maybe resource group I can give, or I should not use same name as variable name. Maybe I can give as, okay, let's maybe do RG forest. Let's say just for the sake of our understanding forest, I'll give this name. Okay, this name is just for our understanding. Okay, we can give any name. Okay, this is good. Now I hope this is clear, right now how we have done. So this is for the using the count, this is for using the this thing. Count also depends on the conditions. This mean now if you want automatically, if you use this thing, you see here automatically using for is to create multiple resource groups. Simple. So Copilot is helping me also at the same time. But then you should also be thinking what you need. Basically, you should also think what exactly you want to do. Okay, this is fast forward. Now we have understood till now, right? Now let's focus the other resource we will complete as soon as possible. Okay. By now you would be able to understand everything. Okay. Now, okay. Resource group. Okay. Now I need to define the output, right? Output also I need to define. Now output also they will still check my existing Terraform code and suggest me because of the Copilot's power. Now, okay, in my case, I can mention as a resource group, right? Maybe I can use the same name. One is for the resource. Okay, let me copy. Right. Let me copy this one. Always, whenever I want to output something, output is going to be basically. Let me give name first. Okay. Now, now you can see. I can use a Copilot again. What basically does. So whenever you define output, even if you go here, documents, right? Where is that output? Import is that, right? Okay. So for each resource, basically we have to output that also. So output is syntax is just like that. You can refer documents also. You can mention this group output also if you want to type in the browser also. You can type. Let's say you can copy paste as it is. If you want to refer documents output, something like that. If you type, you can get some suggestions, right? So output values to query. Anyway, let's not search this one for now. Let's not waste time. Okay, let's focus the topic that. So as I told you, you can give whatever name you want. You can give the output name. Whenever you define the output, I have to pass the value, right? So this is why I given value, and whatever name is there. Now, if you see here, while passing it, I'm giving as a string. A string. Why is it? How is it? How this name is coming? Because as I mentioned, we are using count, right? Count means that means more than one. So I cannot define its value. This thing, right? It has to be defined dynamically. So this is the reason why whenever I pass value, I have to use the square bracket and the asterisk. Instead of asterisk, even if you want, I can, if you want to pass, let's say that means if you just go back here, I'm going to create two resource group, right? Let's say if I want to define the first resource group name, then what I have to do is that I also need to pass with the help of like index number. As we all know, index number start with 0. So if you want to pass only the first resource group, not the here one, asterisk means every single resource group. That means I have two resource group information going to be passed. But if I don't want to, just the first resource group, if I want to pass the output, then you can use a 0. Or maybe if you want to pass the second, that is a second resource group, I can mention the 1 because as I mentioned, index number start with start with 0. But then if I want to pass entire whatever value is defined, entire mean all, right? All mean asterisk. So I can use the asterisk again. Okay, this is the thing. And then name, whatever is there, I'm going to pass. Okay, but one thing, if you see here, I'm going to pass only the what is it? The name. What are the locations? How can I pass? So this copilot, whatever is given, it is correct, but somewhere it is not my expectation, because my expectation is it is not just about the exposing the or maybe output, defining the output for the name of the resource group. In fact, I want for the location also. How is it possible? Let's see that also. Let me remove this one. I will copy or I can remove it. I can mention here as I define this one. This is a, whenever I use the curly braces, that means you are defining the set of object with for particular resource group. So use a curly braces, that will help you this thing. So that is why I told you, even you should also know what you're going to do it. Copilot will give you some output, but then you should also think that what exactly you need and how to define. As I mentioned, I don't want just the resource group name, rather I want location also. Then simply use this one. That is a curly braces. Sorry, yeah, curly braces. Open and close curly braces I use. Enter. As I entered, now I can define here. Okay, I have defined here. Now if you define here, now for each one, now if you want to pass the value for each one, I can use again count dot index, right? We have, if you see here, I just maybe keep this one as a reference, right? If you see here how we are using it, we are using like this. So same thing, I have to use also here after name, right? My whatever name I'm going to pass for each one. Okay. So yeah, that is how we have to understand. Okay, now fine. Same thing for the another output. Now see, they have understood. Trying to they have understood. Now see, I can simply use it. What it does basically, take a look closely. Output defining is sometimes is quite difficult also, but then if you don't understand the logic, yes, it is difficult. For is what is going to do, a resource group as part of the variable name, it is defined value just like here, because as I told you, we have multiple listing thing. I can define it here. Here now what is going to do, because I using for is here also under here we have to for RG key. For RG key basically this is an expression, you can call it as a expression value, basically called RG value. Here they have to tag and pass with the RG value, whatever value is the part from name and the location, they are going to pass dynamically. So I'm good here, I can save this one. Okay, now you might be having a lot of idea now, right, how to do it. Now let's start the next one. Next, what we want to create, by now you should be understanding a lot of things. Now second thing, okay, naming convention, I didn't change it. Naming convention here, as if you remember, it is going to be like this, but I don't want to keep this name. I also want to define with some what you call environment name. If you see a resource group name right now, the name of the resource group would be something like the first one, right? This will be something like a pulse RG. I want pulse RG with a dep. Dep is an environment name basically. I want something like that. Let's see how we can do that. So what we can do is, whenever I want to define the variables, along with this one, I have to use a variable symbol. What is a variable symbol? Variable symbol in the sense the I will show you this also. First, okay, let me see. This is a pulse, and the last I want to define. I want to keep here, and I want to use the variable symbol, that is this one. I can define if you want. Why this one? The counter index plus one. You don't want to do this one. Actually, you can do within here. This is another advantage, as I have already discussed last time also, right? You can use this also. Why I'm using here index number, as I mentioned, would always start with a 0. If you do not want 0, you want from the start with the 1, then you can maybe change 1. That's the first thing. That means my index number would start from 1, not 0. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is the environment variable I want. Now let me change define the variable like this. Now I can define here curly braces are given. Now where dot environment I want variable, right? So what is the environment variable? Sorry, not spelling wrong. Yeah, environment name. Okay, that means if you see your under TFVers file, if you come closer, there is a environment dot name, right? If the environment name, whenever the environment name is this thing, okay. So instead of type in development, I have to type development, then it should come. Okay, let's say if the environment name is this one, then it is going to be created. That means I will give dev as an environment name. So I will change here. This is good. Okay. Now, but then if you see here, this will not work. How will it not work? Because now we are using the environment variable. So whenever you are using the environment variable, sorry, not environment variable, whenever you are using any type of naming from the variables, that case you have to define double quotes also. At the same time, double quotes along with that, what do you call? You need to define this one curly braces with the dollar sign. That is how you define. Now see, Copilot will not suggest you because they do not understand what you're trying to do. They can understand only what you have the data, but that is what we should have the idea. Now, in my case, as I mentioned, I wonder this also. So what I've done, I can do is I can use the double quotes. Double quotes I have done here also. Only double quotes will not help you. Now see, as I type double quotes, I told clearly, right, I have to use the this symbol. What is the symbol called? Dollar sign with the curly braces. I told clearly, right? Now you see, Copilot suggesting me now. Can you see? By giving this one, Copilot suggesting. What did I do? I simply added double quotes at the last. Why double quotes require? As I told you, we should know how it functions. So as I given double quotes, automatically now Terraform trying to they understood now. They understood me. Okay, that means this person wants to define the variable, environment variable along with the existing resource group variable. They understood. So whenever I want to do in these situations, double quotes is must always. So that is why double quotes I use. So Copilot start suggesting me now. Now you see here, I can click it. Now boom, no issue now. Now my code started working fine. Now I got the double quotes at last because if I don't want double quote, then I can remove. But if you want to use the environment as in variable, separate variable, then you should use double quotes at last. And also whatever you have the existing variable also, you need to pass with the variable symbol, dollar sign with the curly braces, right? I hope this is clear. This is for one particular this thing. Index number something I want to start with. Till now, this is how the real-time base also should be working. Now here, as I mentioned, we don't have any this thing also because here for us it is quite easy because everything is loaf. Whatever value that you're going to pass in a TFVers file, that will be same as it is. Yes, of course, if you want to change, you can change, but let's not change it. I'm good for now. Okay, now we have understood, right? Naming standard also we have understood now. Now we will complete very fast now. We will not take much time. Okay, now let's go to container storage account. Now two ways to create storage account, but I will use a Copilot now. In the same main.tf, I will use a Copilot. So I can simply type resource I want to create container, storage account. I can use Azure RM is a provider name. Then storage account. Storage account. Tab. Give a name as any name that you wish to give. Done. Now what else I need? You can see here also you can type. There are so many things. whatever required also you can use you can use here, you can use. See here they are trying to use a count, but what is our requirement? Create a storage account, single container. Okay, I can use a count then in this case. I can use a count. Before count, what I want is, okay, what I do, see, they have given some suggestion, right? Let me check. See, they have given all the suggestion. I can simply copy paste it. Okay, copy paste. Let me copy paste. Sorry, not copy paste. Let me tab it. What is going to create? This also they refer this one. But in my case, as I mentioned, if you have the same requirement, you can do so. Otherwise, you can change the condition. I think type I should not be giving type. It should be name, implement name, because name is equal to depth, right? So that is your depth. If you want to mention a type also, you can give. That means you can give a development here. Let's change this also. Instead of type, I can give as a name. Okay. Now fine. Now this also whatever name is there, they are going to use it. Now the name also share also count dot index we are using. Again, they will start using this one. This is just like above this thing they understood and they have written the same thing. Now let's come to the this is the minimum requirement, right? What about a container? Resource. Sorry, Azure RM storage account container, or maybe Azure container maybe. Okay, maybe we don't know what is the resource side. Let us see that also. What we can ask is Azure RM. If you don't know that proper resource block, you can ask always. No problem. Okay. Azure RM storage, maybe storage container, right? Storage container, maybe. Yeah, storage container. Okay. So as I mentioned, I want to create a container as well. So not just creation of the storage account, but then I want to create this thing. Okay, let's not go back. Let's go back here. So I can mention Azure RM storage. Sorry, my bad. Container. You can see container, right? Select this thing. Now you can give any name. I just give it just for sake of our understanding container again. Now as I click container, automatically also they will give some name. Count also. Again, count also we can use if you want. But if you don't want to use, you can show. Now one thing we need to understand here, because container is separate resource. Sorry, creation of the storage account is another resource block. Container is another resource block. How are you going to understand how the particular container should be mapped to the particular container, right? We cannot understand. So this is the reason why, if you see here on the container, there is a storage account name. You have to call with the index, whatever name is there. This is coming from where here with the help of container, and they are trying to this thing now, right? So now in my case, I can, if it is dev, I will mention as that only one container, because as I mentioned, I want only single container. I don't want to create. That means let me create one container. Sorry, not one container. In my case, I don't want to use forest now. Sorry, I don't want to use a count also. Let's focus this one. Let's forget. Because why we don't want is because we want to waste time. If you want, you can use, of course, but I don't want to do. So if you don't want to do, then what to do? I have to remove this one, right? Okay. If you want to remove, then what I can do, you can just for now, for your understanding, I'm just removing it. Same thing for the name also. I'm removing it. Okay. Otherwise, what we do, I don't want to use this account also. I want the single issues, because that Copilot is given this one, right? So I will not be using this one. Let's say in this case, then you can remove it. So let me do from this thing then. Just we will finish storage. because as I mentioned, I want to create one storage account. I don't want to use any meta argument and all. Okay, it's a simple storage account. Azure RM storage accounts. I can give a storage. Okay, then I can give a name. Otherwise, what I can do is I can copy paste from the documents. As I told you, I can also do the so. I can type here also if you want. Azure RM, right? Storage account. There are many ways to basically explore it. You will get idea as you work. Is it spelling okay? Storage, Azure RM storage. Okay. It will be under resource. Just check if you can see under resource anything. Okay, under resource map netted. Under storage account, right? Under resource. So now, as I told you, I want to create storage account. There I'm going to create network. I don't want. So what I want is container name. If you can see, let me know. Okay, container name is not given. No problem. I will just create the storage account then for now. So I can copy this one, right? Now, as I copy everything from documents, I can type this one way. So now what I want is whatever value is there, I also need to define a container also. Otherwise, let's not. Okay, I can do so if you want. Yeah, container also automatically given. Now tag is something tag. I don't want to define tag here. Maybe I can give tag as a text. Okay, so what we need to understand here is, as I mentioned, this is from the official documents. There's a this thing you can use a Copilot. This also we can ignore this one. This is outside wall. We don't want to define. So first, let me change this one storage. Then I can give this name any name I want, right? This also I can change anything. So how we can use? So let us define a variable. So define the variable this time we will ask Copilot to define a variable for this one. Now we need to understand what is our requirement now. I need to create on one container, right? That means as an object. Object means how we have to define. We have to ask the Copilot now to create a variable for this one. I know I can create it, but I don't want to create. Let's now take with the help of Copilot to create containers as well as storage as a variable. Now, as I mentioned, you need to know what kind of variable you want to define. That's something you need to know that. In my case, what is our requirement is that I want to create only one storage account. That means object. I will use as an object. That means I'll tell them create a storage account variable as an object and define all the properties of the storage account. Same thing for the containers. Let's do that. Can we do that? Now, how can I do? There are two ways of doing. Let me shape first this one. As you save this one, whatever is there, let it as it is. I have not done anything right now. Just let me change the container name so that it will be easy, right? Even if you want, you can ask them Copilot that also, but let me keep things simple. Okay. Now, what will I do? I want to define the variable with the help of Copilot. So there are two ways. I can simply select your code from here to here because this is what I want to change, right? Why this is coming? Let me not remove this text. Maybe out from where this is coming. Container. Okay. Anyway, that extra line. Okay. I will save first. I have to save the first comes. Copy here. I will show you a different way of asking Copilot. One way is selecting particular set of code. I selected right now. Use a Control I. Control I is nothing but interactive. Now Control I as you type. Now you see. Ask Copilot now. They're asking same just like here. We can do here also. But let me ask here. you tell the Copilot now, I have selected storage and container. You can write anything in your way, okay? Container, resource block, resource block. Please create variables uh, variable I think it's correct spelling. Variables for storage, whatever variable name you can ask, or you can tell them to define a variable name, or you can change later variable name. Let's not define the variable name now. I give any name that they wish. Later I can change the variable name, but then the properties they will do that. If you want, you can do. I will mention storage for storage account as storage and container as container. Basically, I'm trying to say I have selected a container, and this is one I have selected a block. Please create the variables for storage account as storage. Variable name should be storage, and then container name should be as container. Also, output in respective .tf file. Let's see. This can be done here as well as here also, but this one way of doing it. Let's see what they can do. See what they did it. Now, if you see storage account, what did I name? I asked where dot storage account dot name, where dot storage account or whatever location name you given. This all taken from. How is it possible? Now there is an option to accept it if you want. If you're okay with the changes, if you want to go back here again, you can also nothing, because we have not used till now. We have used only here. Now your things. Now if you go back to the output, where is that variables, right? Variables, if you see here, variable they have not defined it, because why is not defined? They actually, if you accept it, let's see if you accept also. Here they have defined it, but then here is they have not defined it, right? If you see, I asked output, they didn't define me. Where is the output? They didn't define. What about the variables? They have not defined, right? So that means what we understood here is, if you want to ask this piece of small piece of code, or within only the one particular window, you can ask here. But if you want to do multiple changes, this cannot help you. So now let us see, then I will go back. So that means this is the default, right? Again, I'm coming back to the previous one now. Now let me ask Copilot now to define in respective this thing. I will select here. But then this time I need to define which file I need to define, right? I can select the file, either I can ask by the name of the file. Okay, in the simplest case, what I want is I will attach the file, because I want to define main.tf is that is something I want. Then I want a variable.tf, that is where I want to change the changes. I mean, update the changes. I want to change the output.tfs. What else? And the tf words of course, right? tf words also I want to change. This is what I want, right? Of course. This time I will ask Copilot same as question. Now maybe I need to just select it. I need to ask some questions. Container blah 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 blah. Now container respect tf words and tf words file. Now let's see, because I want tf words file also. Let's see. Now okay. Now it is given this kind of this thing. If you see, I mentioned clearly data type should be as an object. Somewhere I mentioned as in this thing. Now they understood it is an object. This is an object because I mentioned as a single. Now this is also single. Now what you can do, there is an option. You can apply there just to copy here, one particular copy. Now if you go to output, nothing is there if you see here. And if you go to the variables, you would not see maybe here also. So maybe what we can do, copy this one, apply variables. Can you see apply variables? So now applying variable, boom. Now it sees the variable, right? Interesting. Now if you see another variable, as I told you, I have told clearly object, because that's how we want how object they understood, because based on the resource that you define in the main.tf. Okay. Now, okay, I want this variable. I'm happy with exchanges. I will accept it. Now what is the next? Now it is asking to add a variable to the storage container. Okay, let me check this also, apply the variables. Then this is done already, right? Let me do others. Providers, sorry, TFVerse file. TFVerse file also, so now see, existing is there. They are adding this one. Okay, I'm happy. I want to edit. Let's go. Let's go. Boom. Right? So I want to keep, of course, there is an option to discard. There is an option to accept it or keep it. So definitely I can do from here either. I will keep it. What is next? Of course, main.tf also something. If you see main.tf right now, let me just scroll this little here, right? Main.tf, you see only the actual value, right? Still, it is not organized. It is not. It is all hard-coded value. So I need to update here also, right? So there is an option. If you see update main.tf to use the new variables. So of course, this is the changes that I want, right? I can make use of that. Apply to main.tf. Boom. Whatever changes is there, they will tell you. This is the older changes. The red color mean that is going to be overwritten or override, right? This whatever changes you see in the red color, this is going to be discard and it will be updated with the desired whatever name that is updated based on the variable file. So yes, of course, I want this one, so I will accept it. Same thing for the container as well. This will be the hard-coded value. Definitely, I will be defining based on the variables. Say okay, I will define this also. So I will accept this also, right? I will change this also. There is a small syntax also, right? I will accept this also. Now good. What else lab? Then I think we need to define output. Yes. If you go output.tf also, as per my request, it is not there right now because they have written here also. And they can do changes here also. You can ask here also. Just output, just apply to output.tf, right? Just go here. Sync. Now your things are simple. If you don't know also, you by understanding your requirements, by understanding your how logically you want to work, or maybe how complex the kind of project that you're going to work. So you have the mind, right? Like this is what I want to do, the kind of the idea, the agenda that you have. So based on that and what you need to define that you should know, then you can work. Now see, that means I'm good now. Let me close this one. Even if you close also, there is an option again. We can come back and change again, or I can scroll this up and down also. I mean, scroll small, big. There is an option to scroll also. If you see here, right? So if you like that, you can size it. Depends on your compatibility, right? So of course, I want here output also. Let me accept it. Now see. Okay, let me close right now. So by now, I hope I'm sure that you have understood a lot of idea. Now if you go to main.tf also, I'm getting how this name is coming from, because because we are not using multiple resource group, right? We are using only one resource group. So to create the if you see here, we are going to create one resource two resource group, but in the storage account need the resource group, right? So how the storage account would know which resource group to pick? That is why they have used the resource group one. Resource group one name is coming from your variables actually. Okay, so that is why I'm not going to use the resource group two. So resource group one, I'm going to use it. So this is also for is whatever name is there, I'm going to define that. All right, and this is a container. So till now, any doubt team? Or you can see output also how it is defined. But yes, it is not just about giving the output. You also need to define a check whether your understanding should be correct, as well as what you're going to do, whether whatever they have given, that also you need to understand it. So yeah, that's how we need to understand. Okay, let's go to the next one now. Next is about the network creation and this thing. Now same thing, I can ask Copilot to define this thing also. So what I can do is I can copy everything now. Now they will understand my syntax. What I want is, how can I ask now Copilot? Because as I mentioned, I'm not using any module. If you want to use the module wise, then you have to specify for particular folder name where you want to do a changes, which folder. That also, as we learn, maybe next session, definitely we will learn that as well, right? For now, you understand this much. Now let me go here. This time, I will type maybe little bit. Okay, I will tell create this need to be created also. Okay. So what I can do is you can ask Copilot here below mention resources with um you this ask is not that clear. This is okay, they understand. Roles, you can mention role name. Example, let's say RDP and HSS, for example, in our case. Okay, these two things we understand. And the role, you can mention how many NSG you want. You have specified that one. Network mention one, you mention one VNet, one subnet I'll create, one NSG, so that we know how many, then they will be clear for them. How many you want, depends on your requirement. And um, two rules. Then they are, because one is for the this thing. This time I will mention here bracket because I should know that concept of Terraform, right? I cannot simply ask also. What I want is rule. I was using the dynamic block, right? So we can call as a if you remember in the last session we have learned that. So you can mention as a uh, dynamic if uh, dynamic block, something like that you can ask, so that they understand it, they can write it. And multiple BMs means I mentioned, but then I did not mention what BM you want to create, whether you want to create Windows or Linux. So I mentioned, and the to multiple mean doesn't make sense. I can mention the how many BMs you want. Multiple means I can mention as two BMs, right? Two virtual machine, two view Windows I mentioned, or Linux. Two Windows virtual machine, that means more than one, right? That means multiple virtual machines based on the environment, um, based on the environment name should be created. In my case, just for sake of our time, I if you dev environment, then it will create, otherwise it will not create. Then here I can mention attach. If you remember one thing, we also need to know where our NIC card should be attached, right? NIC card should be can be attached to the BM level, either the NIC card level, right? NIC card can be attached to the virtual machines NSG level, otherwise where subnet level, right? So I can specifically mention that also, because that will help Terraform to write our Copilot to help us to write better code. So I will mention the NIC card should be okay. You can mention properly. You can write context. Note attach NIC to subnet level. Let's say instead of the NIC card level. Sorry, my bad. NIC card. Sorry, NIC role. My bad. Okay, bear with me, team. This one you mention. So NIC card. Sorry, not NIC card. I don't want NIC card, right? I want to NSG only, right? You can mention here. Note NSG and SG attach or attach NSG to, you can mention attach It was okay. NSG to subnet level, because as I mentioned, I want subnet level that is much easier, right? Even in Nicker level, I can do so, but I will define this thing. So that means now you are very much familiar, right? What you need to ask. That means you should be clear enough exactly what is your expectations and how you want to manage them, depends on the situation. This is a very simple scenario that I have given you. That means I want to create one VNet. I can give a VNet name also if you want. Otherwise, you can change it later, not an issue. VNet name and all you can change later. One subnet, one NSG, and role. The name you can change later. Local name also you can change. This one. Okay. Now I think this is more than enough. Now same thing for the by default atos public IP PM connect to the Nicker, right? PM. This also I need to do it. And definitely recovery service wall creations with backup policy and create tech backup, or you can mention add enable backup or BM. That means now you have complete understanding, right? That exactly we need to define what we need to ask. This much is okay, but this can be much more easier way you can define, but it is a rough way I have defined it. Let me do so. Copy paste everything. Where to copy? Before that, as I told you, you have to select your file where you want. Okay, one thing I need to mention is create mention issues. Wait, this thing you can mention below also. Please kindly or please whatever update all Terraform file, Terraform configuration file, or Terraform file you can mention Terraform configuration file such as this is additional. If you want, you can, otherwise you can, because for them it will be easier if you can give more information to them, right? For what? Keywords. Next, what we want? Main.tf. Main.tf normally they will listen. They can, you can copy paste one by one. I want them to update. So main.tf, what is their next variables? .tf. What else? Output.tf. Anything else? Them? I think this is enough, right? Now let me copy this. This information is enough. This can be much concise as well, but let's not, because I have already defined already. If you see, if you expand this one, right? If you expand this one, now let me. You can see everything's at us right now. Before it is at us, that should be fine. If you just enter. Okay. Now let's ask Copilot what data is going to give. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So yeah, team. Meanwhile, do you have any questions?
No, bro.
Okay, are you able to understand?
Yeah, bro.
Okay. See, this one they have given the code written everything, but then again, as I mentioned, giving the code is not help you. You need to also understand the logically also you need to think, right? So if you're able to think, if you're able to understand why is tools or why is Terraform the particular things are used, then you can easily make use of Copilot and improve your productivity, and you can even learn faster. Now, as you can see here, all Terraform blocks are ready to copy paste into your respective files. So they have done it. So they have told you clearly where to modify everything. This will be better NSG everything, or you can go to here everything. They have given everything. So this is interesting, right? So I can ask, maybe you can check what is going to do. One VNet, one subnet, one NSG with dynamic roles for RDP SSS NSG attached to the subnet, as I told you. This is what I want. And second thing is, two windows VM is going to be created with the NIC cards in the public IPs. If environment is depth, if it's a depth condition, then only it is going to be created, because that's what we did. Recovery as well. Backup, then backup policy. Definitely, whenever you create the recovery search world to take the backup, as I shown yesterday, right? Backup policy need to be created. So they will create backup policy and enable the backup for the VMs itself. There is another resource block. So that also they are going to do it. So they are going to do. So this is, if you go here, variables also till now I do not see, right? So can we ask the Terraform itself directly to write in each folder file? Let us see that. They have given here, I can copy paste it or I can move it. That I can do. But can we even do much smarter? Let us see that. Can you please move or write each resource resource within each file dot tf or tf verse file. So that also we'll see if they can help us. They have given, I know, but I want to be much smarter even. So let's see. So if you can take a look closely, they are now reading the variables in particular this thing. So this is still they're actually trying, they're working on the backends. They will try to analyze and everything. But what you can, the best practice is certainly they have given this thing. Okay. So anyway, they have given this way. The thing normally they can do it, but sometimes they don't do. So you have to ask properly. Anyway, I don't mind moving them one by one, no problem. So what I want is I will come back Terraform.tvers in the resource group. Okay, yeah, they have done it, but thing is that I don't have with this name, right? I don't have with this name. Now, if I try to create, also doesn't make sense, because all I want to mention main.tf file, because I don't have separate resource for each resource. I don't have a main.tf. All I want to define in the one main.tf. That is why it is giving. So I don't want to use this one. It's okay, code is okay. But what I want is I want to use the existing one. And existing this in the first one, because this will use the existing main.tf everything. I cannot create separate main.tf for every single resource. That is why. Let's use the existing. Okay, let's come down. Now, okay, now let's copy one by one. This is for the VNet, this thing. Now, if this will be moved to the variable, under variable for this thing. Now, things like that, I can just move it or copy, just copy also. There is also called the insert it. I don't want to insert, I want to just move it, apply this one to the here. See, it is moving now. So they are going to add. Okay, let's see what exactly they are going to do. Let me hide this also. Right, so if you see here, they are going to add the VNet, as I told you, VNet name. As I told you, one VNet, right? By default, they took as an object, because I have clearly told you, if single this thing, you mostly this thing, object you're going to use. And address space by understand, because address space can be multiple. That is why they give me a list of string, not one. If you give it only one string means, sorry, address space as a string, only one value you can pass, not the multiple. But normally in address space we can have multiple values. That is why location as a string. So this is good. Binary is okay. Subnet also okay. And this energy role, where energy role also created according to this thing also. As I have told clearly that to create only one binary, right? Sorry, one energy. So again, object. Under object, I need to mention name of the NSG. So as a string. Under here we have a rules. Rules mean, as I told you, we are going to use it dynamically. So list of object because we have to list the, for each one we'll have a set of properties. That means for RDP, to enable RDP, we need to define the RDP like a rule name, priority, direction, access, protocol, and then source port range, destinations, source address prefix, destination prefix, everything we need to define. These are the some of the like properties that is required for particular energy role to be defined. So this is why they have defined it as a, this can be as an object list or anything, but then they're using as a list of object because as I told you, we are going to use dynamically as well as same way. Now coming to the Windows here, you can see here Windows as an object. By object, we told multiple distinct. Maybe we can ask the Windows configuration object, but what is the questions we ask? Let me check. For Windows 2 Windows machines based in the environment. Okay, no problem. This question can be little different way I can ask them. I don't mind using count also. Count also I can use 2 BM. Otherwise, you can use using the, okay, no problem. How it works? 2 BM it is going to be created based on the environment. Should be created. This name they given. The reason why they are using object is because if you see here, they are given as a type as an object is because I have mentioned here based on the environment name. If the environment name is agar, if the environment name is dev, then only they have to create 2 BM. That means I have to use a count condition here. I cannot use a for each condition here. But if you want to use a for conditions, then you have to ask in a different scenario here. Because I want only when the BM should be created when there is a VNet, sorry, environment name is dev. That is why I have to use the count condition here. That that is why they given this as an object. Then backup everything. Backup basically to take the backup, I need to mention the wall name, policy name, and so on everything. So I'm okay with this one. So let me accept it. Now maybe I don't need to big size. Okay. Okay. Now I think this binary is okay. What is the next? Binary is okay. Then TF verse file. I will copy it to TF verse file also. I will move them. I will not check anything for now. I just wanted to complete as soon as possible. Let me accept it. I can check later. Of course, you cannot blindly use. You have to verify. Also see, ask them changes that they are doing it. Next is suppose main.tf. I need to define the VNet name, right? So VNet name, then subnet names, subnet details, as well as the NSG. See, NSG are going to be created. The NSG role also going to be created. What else? Then they're going to create a associate. NSG need to be associated to this. If you see here, I told clearly that NSG need to be associated to the subnet level. So they are doing that. So this also, as I told you, this also separate resource block. So then VM also need to be created. Public IP need to be created based on the environment as part of their request. They are doing also so everything right. So is this, so what I do? Maybe I will come here. This is main.tf. I'm moving them. Okay, main.tf is good. Then okay, I will accept it. I will look okay. Now next, what after main.tf? Sorry, I think what which one we were doing now? TF bars is done, right? Main.tf also done. Okay, main.tf is done. Then what is next? Next, let us see what we have to do is output.tf. So as I mentioned, I will copy paste it. I mean, just moved it. They have done it. Yes, accept, sir. Please accept it. What's next? Let me check. Accepted. Yes, I think that's it. Now let me close one by one. See. Now, okay. Now we have understood. Now we are much confident, right? By understanding the basic, the Terraform concepts and also the idea when you have in your mind, right? Or maybe how complex we're going to work in the project. So you'll have a lot of things, right? So that you can actually make use of that. So that will help us. Now let's see one by one. Now these two we understood the basic one. Later we understood the Copilot also. Yeah. Now it is going to create the two resource group. Maybe I can remove one. I don't mind creating. Let it be. Okay. And then it is going to create storage account. It is going to create containers. Then it is going to create a VNet. This is something not created. This is created by Copilot. And this also Subnet also created by Copilot. This all Copilot. Even this also. But then, as I told you, I want dynamic. This is why they're given rule. So how it works, that need to understand. But yeah, and then also I told clearly to Copilot that the NSG need to be associated on your subnet level, because the NSG can be associated on your NIC cut level as well. But then if you define on your NIC cut level, then it is quite difficult. Difficult in the sense it is not easy to manage it, because for each NIC you have to associate them. So if I associate the NSG role, sorry, NSG on your subnet level, mean whatever, because within the subnet we have a multiple IPs, right? This will be included all the policies. That is why. So now then it is going to be created the public IP address as well based on the environment. This is what I want. And also they use the counter index. How the counter index is coming? Because there is a condition called as a count, right? Why count? Because the BM is using count. If you remember, BM we are using if the environment is equal to something something, right? Then name is equal to dev, then it is going to create two, otherwise don't like that. That is why to associate particular resource also you have to use a count.
Can you
Okay.
explain how it takes name, bro? Like count I understood. If the environment is there, it creates two resources. If
Which
not,
which
it
which part, which
creates
part, line number, line
two to 75. 75, 75.
75.
V
Okay.
now V in public
Okay.
IP dollar count dot index. Do like a what it will take.
Counter index means okay. This one you understood.
Yeah, yeah. The count
This is
statement
basically
74 line I
this.
understood.
Okay. See here. Carefully listen. This value is coming from where? This value is coming from nowhere else. This value is actually updating locally. That means whatever BM public IP name is given as
You
an
are
a
giving
public name.
prefix. Prefix is VM dash public dash IP dash is the prefix.
No, what is the line number?
75.
Hmm?
75 only, bro.
75. What, which prefix are you referring to?
VM dash public dash IP बोल के you given ना.
Hmm? This one.
VM 75 line only, bro. VM dash public dash IP.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
acting like a prefix or what I am asking.
See. This value actually prefix, you can think of a prefix, because this one actually we are not calling out or calling in from anywhere else. This is just the name that I'm defining locally.
Okay.
That means this is the name I want. If you don't want this one, you can give any name. This, if you're calling this particular from elsewhere as in variable, that time, as I mentioned, you have to use this one $sign with the curly braces. Because as I told clearly, this is defined locally. That means you are not calling elsewhere. So you do not need to define the variable. Fine. So as long as you define locally, then you have to keep as it is. But then at the beginning you can see the double quotes, right here also, and the end, at the end you can see the double quotes. This need to be keep in mind. You have to define it. That means now the public IP name would be whatever name you given here. That will be my BM public. My public IP. Sorry, BM public IP. Then whatever index name is there, that will be the name of the particular public IP address. Is it clear?
Okay.
Now, if you want to change any name, that you can give it. So because we are not calling out from anywhere. All right. Now then we want to create a nicker also. If you see nicker also, again given the same condition as BM. Why we are doing so? Because as I mentioned, BM, we have two BM. That means we need to have two NIC card. Of course, we need to have the same conditions. You cannot have one BM for the east, for is another VM, nicker for the count. It will not work like that. Okay. Same thing, resource group, as I told you, we are going to use the existing. Now this is the configuration, internal configurations, and then we are going to create a virtual machines. This is the requirement, right? We want to create a two virtual machine, that is a Windows virtual machines. So based on the environment, that is a dev, it is going to create two, otherwise not to create. So then this is the image. This all then I need to create the, as I mentioned, key wall also as your recovery service wall. They are going to create use the same resource group, and also they are going to create the policy. The policy is something is this thing. Okay, this policy they are going to create policy. Then after creation of the policy, also we need to understand one thing. We have to link them. How would Terraform would know the particular, let's say, if you create the recovery service world and if you create the BM, how would the Terraform would know whether this particular BM need to be used, this particular recovery service wall or not? How they will get to know, or how they will come to know, right? This is the reason why we have to link them. How can we link them? With the help of Azure RM backup protector. If you don't know this one, then for every single resource, even if you want to link the NSG subnet also, you have to example if you want to link the NSG creator, right? NSG, let me come. This is a NSG going to be created, but you have to link them also, right? You can see here Azure RM SharpNet Network Security Group Association. This is another resource block. That means now if you see here, subnet ID, I have defined it, network security group, because as I told you, I want to associate subnet, so NSG to the subnet level. So linking also having another resource block, not just about creation of the resource, but then also to link them also, there will be separate resource block involved. I hope this is clear, including the public IP also. Some resource you have to call with a certain ID of the particular resource, or maybe name, whatever way. Yeah, fine. Now same way we are doing so. So now we understood, right? Now see how we just in 10 to 15 minutes, if you have the code, I mean your script ready, you can write your infrastructure ready. So it is as simple as this thing, right? So that is the thing. Now same thing, output you can check. This is the resource group that we created, so that's account also okay. Then container also got created, created in the sense output. Then VNet also, VNet output they have given, subnet output they have given, NSG they have given, Windows VM related they have given, everything they have given. But only one thing you have to notice is whenever I use a forest account, know for what is this main, you need to understand, right? So try to understand this one. Then also recovery service world, then backup policy, and also protectors, everything. So similar way, if you go to the TFVers file, as I mentioned, you would have a environment. This is what I defined. In my case, it is going to be deployed in a dev environment, and then a tag also I have defined it. Then of course, this is a resource group using the count, second resource using the forest, and then storage account properties, the container properties, and the binary properties, certain properties. Even these properties can be even concise mode, but then for now that should be fine. And this is the name of the NSG, whatever name you want to define, that's how it define. Then what else? Windows properties. I can check here. Properties, what configuration you want, and back like this. Doing this so, but it is not mean that 100% it will work. Now you need to run the Terraform. Running the Terraform also, we need to see whether it will work fine or not. There will be small issue, you have to fix it, right? So example, let's see what issue comes first. So as I told you, let us see the list. If it a list, this many resources are there. So first what I do is I use a Terraform init, right? To basically initialize the backend. Meanwhile, let me go back to the portal. I want the subscription details where I can actually log in. Yeah, Tim, if you have any question meanwhile, you can let me know. Okay, I hope everybody is clear, able to understand, right?
Yeah, bro.
Okay, great. Yeah. So as we know, right? So normally we can log into the this thing also with different way using the you can log in through the CLI, otherwise from your managed entity, like service principal and all. But I don't want to do so. Maybe I can try here. Now Terraform, I can run Terraform plan. Validator also, if you want, I can do so. Now there is a lot of syntax issue that, as I told you, you have to fix the syntax, understand the fix the issue. Now I will not fix every issue, but then I will give an idea how to fix the issue. Now what I want first thing is on the provider here, right? Maybe I need to define the subscription ID. I can basically give a subscription details here. So that this thing. Now let's come to the issue. I will take next 5 minutes, then we can wind up. Okay. So what is the first thing? Now, if you see so much big script we have written, but we do not see much changes. Only this small, this many issue we are having. That means how good it is, right? So let us understand one by one why this issue is coming. First, understand the issue. It says deprecated attributes output this particular storage container, something we are using it. So it is somewhere main.tf, we are using this index, blah, blah, we are using. Now that means what is the issue? Can somebody tell me where the issue is? Let's focus the first one, or maybe this one. Line number in the output, line number 29, there is a output storage container, right? So there in the line number in the this output, right? Let me go there. In the output, what is the output.ts? This is what it is. What is the line number 19? Sorry, 29. If you go line number 29, sorry, 29 is where? Yeah, line number 29, 29. Yeah, yeah. Storage container. Okay, 26 to 29. Okay. Okay. Now here we have a storage container. Line number 29 we have here, right? Here, storage container name maybe. Storage container name. This particular is the what is it? The attribute is deprecated. Refer the provider. Okay. So why it is coming? It is saying deprecated. No issue. Deprecated in the sense it is not being used currently, but yes, it can be used as well. So there's nothing wrong using it. The reason why it is so, because in the container level right now, instead of the storage account this thing, I can use the storage account ID, then it will go now. Otherwise you can ask Copilot as well. Okay, that's a first issue. I will fix that using Copilot as well, but for now understand this one. This is not deprecated, it's not being support. You can refer the documents as well. Now, if you want to still check the documents, as I told you, first preference would be documents, not just the Copilot, but understand the documents as well. Now, if you go to the here, type the storage account name. Storage account. Sorry, storage account. Let me copy the same name. Right. So sorry, this will be storage on the storage account. Okay, name, right? Storage name. If you go to name, now if this is storage account, and while linking them, come down, ID will be getting. You can just go through these documents. Okay, this is for each resource I'm saying it. If you can see something storage account ID or something, let me know. Okay, so name storage account. Am I in the right direction? Storage account. Okay, you could type otherwise. Storage account Let me check. Okay, anyway, it will be there. You have to just keep search. Okay, let's not waste time. Okay, so basically it is issue here. So instead of the storage account, this thing, we can make use of the what I call ID. Okay, I will come to the point. So what is the second issue? Let's see. Second issue is they're asking to refer documents. As I told you, if you refer the documents, as I told you, I know this issue, so that's fine. What is second issue? In a main.tf line number 3, that is a resource group.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, money.
Then actually storage account duplicated, it is just a warning, right? We can ignore it.
Yes, yes, that's what I say. That is just a warning. We can ignore it, that one. Okay.
Fine.
Still, we can use it. Nothing wrong with using it. But then they will give you a warning that if you want, you can use it still storage account name. But then best practice to use the storage account ID. That's what it is. If you refer the documents, they will tell you this is deprecated. Try to use the ID. But there's nothing wrong using it.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Pani. All right. Now next is about the second issue. What is the second issue? It's about in the main.tf line number 3. Let's see what is that. Line number. Let's see the file extension first. Main.tf. What is line number 3? That means line number. I went to main.tf. Line number 3 means mostly it will be on top, right? So let me go up. As you can see, line number 3 is what? It is a name. So what it is saying is that this particular under 3 line number 3 means this one 3. This is having some issue. Now whatever variable name some say counter in this is number. This is a string. What it means? What it means? Can somebody tell me? Count or index is a number I define, and here given as this thing name. Okay, we will check this also. Count or index basically the value that we are passing. This one they are referring. Okay. Anyway, I will come back to that. The second issue is also index. That is also line number 4, locations. So basically, we are having issue with the location. They expect counter index is a number, but they actually location is a string, right? Location is a string. So what we can do is now this data there is a syntax issue. So what we can do is that let us copy this error. Like there are 3 issues, right? I explained out this issue. Now let me copy this all issue. Whether it is in Terraform issue or any other core issue or whatever issue. In our case, Terraform issue, right? So yeah, let me copy this one. I will copy from here. Now I have copied it. Now let me go here. Now what I'll do is I will tell the Copilot again. I'll open here. As I mentioned, I have everything. I need to save first all the files. I have already saved it. I will tell that. I don't have to tell that. I will just copy paste it. Now Terraform would still check because it is already defined as part of this thing also. So they will check the whatever issue is there. Let me just enter these changes that I am doing now. So we will see what changes it is there. Okay. So it will just take some time. Let's wait. Okay. Now, what is the issue? Now, first we'll understand. Now, here is the now you can see here is how to fix the issue. Invalid index on a particular name, location, and the resource group name and the location having issue. You are treating this particular location and here as a list, but they are string. Why they are string? Let us see that. That is what I want to show. If you go to the resource group, where is that? We are using count, right? See, this is not a list. It is a string. This is what it is expecting us to define as a string, right? This is the reason why it is not a list. If there is a list, they will expect list. This is the first thing. So how can we fix the issue? Now remove the index and use the string directly. How can we use that one? So instead of index, as I told you, because of this data type. So what I can do is I can move now. I can use like this counter index +1. That means at last we can define here, not within here. So maybe what I can do is I can just copy paste this one. Let me apply otherwise. They will change, right? Because it will get updated. That's the first issue. That means now we understood how the things are there, how interconnected. Let me just scroll this little. Okay, now if you can see the first one we have given as a here. Now this remain as it is. Only the name and locations now. Only the name and location is going to be changed here. Okay. Okay. Now as you can see here.
Just very Hriyen.
Yep. Yes, money.
Previously, that incorrect syntax having count dot index included was provided by us or by Copilot.
Which one? Counter index, huh?
That incorrect syntax is there, right? It is provided by us or Copilot.
Yes, sometimes Copilot will try to write. Then while validation, we have to understand. Yes.
I mean,
sometimes
it is
Copilot
an incorrect
will give.
syntax, right?
Okay. No, this one I have defined it because I wanted to show you the difference.
Okay, you manually
yes
wrote an incorrect one. Okay, got it.
Yeah. If you remember for is and account we use manually, right? I didn't use a Copilot, but I wanted to show you the difference. And once we understood this data type, then Copilot suggests that others, whatever Terraform code that we have written, then based on our existing code, Terraform, Copilot suggests us, right? If you remember, that's the thing. So I wanted to show you, that's the thing. Now, what we did was here, if you see this name, whatever name is given, this is from it is coming from a variable. This is as it is before. Here, counter index need to be at last.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Because
I just want
we are
to
same thing, location also we are passing this one. Okay, yeah. Now, okay, I'm okay with changes. I will accept it. Okay, now that issue is fixed. And now let us see what is the next issue. Okay, I think this is the thing. Deprecated, huh? Careful. Second thing is about this is done. Deprecated storage account name output in attribute in output. This attribute storage account name is deprecated for storage account container. To fix this one, then they are telling you instead of this particular thing, they have to use a storage account name. Here if you see this thing. Where is that? Fix Azure storage account, then storage account, whatever name is there in your output. So there is some syntax issue also. Sometimes the output also get this thing. Okay, I will go change this, not an issue. Output.tf, let's see. What changes is there that we can see here. Now, as I told you, for whenever we define the output, it will be based on the data type that we are defining. So we should understand what changes are doing. Now, what changes actually happen in the name? It is given name, right? Name we need to define here, given as a container name. Here, if you see here, Azure RM storage container.name. This is okay. Second storage account name is what having issue, right? Here, Azure RM storage account container dot storage.name. Here, having some other storage account.name. This is the thing. So we have to get a proper this thing. So okay, I'm happy with this thing. Now let's see. Okay, now I have fixed this also. I think apart from this one, I don't have any issue right now. So as you can see here, the summary of changes, remove list index from this particular here and also location in main.tf and update the storage account container output to use the storage account resource for the storage account name. Account name, I mean. So that's why we can see now. That means it is given as almost instruction. I'm done with this one. Now let us once again check the plan first. If I check the plan, say I have already, let me run once again. So this small issue which common, it is well known, it is known. Maybe validate I will do also if you want. Now validate is successful. Okay, what about the plan then? Trust me, even sometime validation will pass, but sometime in a plan or the apply time, sometime there could be some other dependency. It may fail also sometime. So it has to be tested well. Okay. Not mean that if validation is passed, mean Terraform will start creating the resource. No. Sometime even validation pass also, you are going to fail sometime in the plan phase or thing. Now you can see resource going to be created. Right, so see, we did not waste much time, right? I mean, we didn't spend much time. We hardly spent for 10 20 minutes maybe, or half an hour max to run all the code. Now I can, okay, let me apply then. Let's see. I want to apply, and then you can see, right? Apply auto approve. Auto, sorry, my bad. So this is a one of the simplest way. But as I told you, as you learn basic, as you basically practice in the real time, or maybe as you work in the real maybe basically DevOps role, or maybe any cloud engineer role, whatever. Maybe once you start working the project, right? So you'll have a lot of idea even to do with different kind of situation, different scenarios and all. Even the kind of knowledge that you have right now, even you can also start thinking how you can make use of Copilot with and I mean Copilot with Terraform with Copilot, right? So that is something you can also be exploring. See, it is getting created. Let's do it. So as I mentioned, I'm not talking about anything about the backends right now, because our state file, it is going to be stored right now. It is in locally itself, so it is not going to store remote. So now you can easily see the sensors, but yeah, it is still taking the time. What do you think, guys, about this one? Do you think it is interesting? Good, right? So it is quite easy also. You don't have to waste much time. If you know the thinking, or maybe if you know the concepts, everything, then it is quite easy. It's all about you thinking. Okay. Maybe we can check. Meanwhile, I have already logged into my subscriptions. I'm in portal. I can log in. Okay, I do have. All right. Now, if you remember, we have given the pulse 1, 2, 3, and all right. These all coming from where we will verify this also. It will take some time. Let's not wait this one. Meanwhile, if you go to the output.tfs, sorry, variable.tfs, I mean TFR file, right? Let's focus on the resource group. Environment, we know that tag also we know that will be there. Resource group name first one is a pulse RG. Pulse RG using count. If you can check pulse RG. Can you see here? Pulse RG is not showing, right? Let me copy paste it. Maybe still getting created. Okay. All right. This is, as you can see, pulse RG. Pulse RG you can see, but which is the right one now? Can somebody tell me? I have created pulse RG as a map object here. Now this particular resource information or resource group, let's say I want to show a Terraform code also in main.tf. This one, right, using count. This one, this resource group name, which is the resource group 2 name, because I given is equal to 2, that 2 resource group going to be created. Which are the resource 2 resource group? Can someone tell me? This will be the 2 pulse dev.1.2. How this name is derived? This name is derived from your index. If you remember, there is a name, right? Resource group name. I given the name I given as what you call whatever resource group name. In my case, resource group name is Azure, sorry, Pulse RG, right? Is what I given. And my class environment name I have defined it. If you see here, environment I have defined it. At the end, I given the index, counter index. That means the index starts from the 0, not 1. Sorry, 1, not from 0, right? That is why I can see 1 and 2. That means now we are good, right? This one. Same way for the this all using for is, because if I mention how this name is coming, this name if you see here for is I'm calling with the is dot value dot name is dot for each resource group whatever the value is defined as part of your the TFVerse file, it is going to be passed. Let's see now if you see here this one, right? This is presume for is. Now you can see name whatever name I have given, pulse rg1, pulse rg2, pulse 3 and so on, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, now what is the next about the let's go to the, because I think we are using this resource group to deploy all our resources, so let us go inside this one. So as you can see here we have the backup also. Basically this is the name that we have given according to the naming standard, dev.backup wall, whatever name is given, and this is the NSG name we have defined, and this is the VNet name I had defined. Let us see the backup wall first. If you backup wall means just like yesterday we have created, right, manually, same thing now we can also go and create take the backup. Now if you see here I don't have anything, so what I can do is, I think there is some, let me check, expand. Okay, there is some resource got created, some resource having some issue that you can see here. This okay, creating of the resource storage account. This is sometime if you see here, what is the issue is about, as I told you, sometime even the Terraform plan would pass, even the validation would pass, but then when you actually you try to deploy or maybe try to apply the Terraform, that time there could be certain things which is not able to this thing, then you're giving this thing. Let us see the first one now. The issue is where? The first one is issue creating storage account with this particular subscriptions, and this is the name of the resource group that we are going to use. This is the storage account name. It is saying that performing and create what is it, unexpected status with 403 or then with error request disallowed by policy resource storage account name was disallowed by policy. Reason, hey, you are allowed to create only standard LRS. Who created this one? Because this is all defined as per a policy. Policy, who created that policy? That created by me. So let us change the now. That means I can only create the LRS. Maybe now if you go to the storage account maybe TFVerse file, let's see, right? TFVerse file storage account, I think bigger standard, right? Here, right there, I can give a LRS. So instead of ZRS, I can give a LRS because that is a policy I have defined it here. Now that's the first issue. That means now issue will get fixed now. What is the next issue? Static code. This is for the IP address related. Now here, the static code, sorry, the IP allocation must be when SQ P. Okay, this is to be this thing. Okay, this is for the public IP does not support the this thing. Maybe let me check. Okay, public IP. What is the public IP configuration? Let us see that. That means I need to check the public IP. Right. Let me know if you can see the public IP somewhere here. Right, public IP. Did I mention public IP somewhere? Oh, I don't see public IP defined here. Can you guys see public IP here? First tense. Okay, then do one thing. Let's not create the public IP for now, because as this thing, I did not define, so I will not create a public IP for now. Then just to check about time savings, right? So that I can just show other things, because public IP is not important for us now. Where is the public IP? Public IP address, right? This one I will ignore for now. let's not create public IP, because if you don't create also, that's okay. You can still take the backup. Okay, now let's apply once again. Okay, so we will see this one. What is saying? Did I do anything? Interface. Okay, nick car also I need to remove this thing, because nick car associated the public IP, right? So if you go to nick car, there is a public IP address. I have to remove this also. Okay, so that's why, as I told you, you should know how it is interconnected. Okay, public IP need to be associated to your nick car. Now that is why I have basically removed that one. It will take some time, guys, anyways. But meanwhile, as you can see, right, this many issues got created. That means we are doing great. You can also maybe check 1 second, just keep refreshing that one. Maybe, as I told you, we are going to be using the first resource group is where our this is going to be created. Okay, let's wait. See, it is going to create so many things, so many other things also going to create. Let's create whatever created. Okay, anyway, that you might be having a lot of idea now, right, how to do it, everything, but then you need to explore. Okay, just get an idea what you need to do, everything, then you will easily can explore. So now, okay, that let it get created. Meanwhile, if you can see here, there is a terraform.tf state file also gets created. Right now I cannot see because the state file gets updated now, right? So whenever you try to basically run your terraform or maybe whenever you Terraform runs the plan, or maybe not plan, basically apply changes happen, that time you should not do anything in the state file. Now as you can see here, they are not allow you to do now because it is being updated now. Okay, once you successfully the apply is done, then only the state file get released. In this case, you can see after completion of the Terraform apply itself. Still getting no problem, let it be. Okay. Now, as you can see right now, this particular resource, that is a virtual machine 1, because we given 2 virtual machines going to be created, right? So you can see 1, not 0 like that. So now what they are doing, you can see for each one. This is for the another resource, VM basically. Yeah, team. So it will take some time, maybe at least 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, whatever questions you have, you can ask me. So by the time we can this thing discuss that also. Okay, I think no questions, right? Okay, if no questions, I think that's fine, because anyway this will get created, no problem. So same way you can also start practicing it. Try to do a simple small code, maybe try to know what kind of information I need to update. Now let's wait. I think the backup also takes time, right? So as you can see right now, there are 2 VMs. As I mentioned, right, the index number always start with 0. That is why you can see here 0, because I did not give something called as a slash, space plus 1, this thing to change the behavior, to change the default behavior. I did not give anything, so argument. So that is why by default index number given as a 0, and the second BM is given as a 1. So if you do want to keep this one, then you can change it, as you can see in the resource group, right? Same way you can define it. Now, if you come to the virtual machines, if you can see the name, I did not give anything like that. If you want to define instead of 0, I can give here +1. Let me see. Okay, +1 like that I can give. So that means the index number, whatever name of the particular BM name would start with this particular, that is 1. Okay. Now, anyway, I think it's still getting created. Because there are many resources, right? Recovery service wall also going to be created. They'll take the backups and everything. But I wanted to show you that also. That is why let's wait for 2 minutes, okay? Then we can wind up. Okay, so meanwhile, let's just refresh my page. Okay, what I can do is, let me go to the recovery service wall where that is got created. Let me open another tab. Okay, now, as I told you, I will go to the recovery service wall, or I can directly go from here also, as you wish, right? You can search here. So yeah, this is the name they created, recovery service wall. The severity is showing as a poor. There could be some this thing, you need to check the security, why it is poor. Maybe network, because of the network. Now, if you go here, there is a something called as a policy, right? So let's come to the policy. Maybe let me settings, protected, and the policy. There is an option called backup items. If you this is a protected alert here. Now, if you see here, two virtual machines. Why two virtual machines? If it's under protected item, that means there are two virtual machines which are taken as backup. Now let us click that. Now you can see these two BM, right? BM1, BM2. These are got created because there are BM1, BM2 got created. This is the reason why automatically the backup got distinct. But then you can see the warning sign. Why it is so? Can somebody tell me why it is showing as a backup? Last backup status showing as initial listing. The reason why, if you see here, check the right, it's a pre-check basically. It's pass. We are using same resource group for two BMs as well. When it comes to the here, why the issue is because let's go to the virtual machine itself. Let me take one of the virtual machines. If I take this virtual machines, let me take to the backup extension. There is a backup this, right? I can type as backup. So as I told you, as you click here, right now you can see, right, backup is passed. The warning initial backup pending. That means I do not see the backup is enabled, but where is the point? Here is the point. I do not see anything. The reason being is that why it is so? Because we have not initialized the backup. There is an option backup now. You can do this one manually also if you want to do. Otherwise, Terraform will do automatically. How can Terraform do automatically? On what basis? Let us understand. If you know the answer, then that is good. Why it is not backup? Can somebody tell me? That's if you can, you can. Otherwise, that's okay. Let's go to the policy. This is for the policy to create or to take the backup of particular virtual machines. Let me go to the policy. If you take a look close, this one be given as a policy name as a standard, and name of the policy is dev backup policy. Here, if you see here, backup frequency I given as 11 o'clock UTC. Now even I don't know what is UTC time would be 11 o'clock. Mean how much Indian time would be? We don't know. So now if you calculate this one, then you get to know. In IST, right? IST. I don't know if I'm doing the right one, but let me check if I can see still this one, right? UTC right now is a it's a PM or morning. It is a PM. Okay. Okay. Here now this is a UTC to IST now 11 PM, right? 11 mean I can mention 11 PM, right? Here convert. Now 11 PM is it correct? I don't know. IST. Okay. Right now it is okay. This is the last time. I don't know how to convert, but I converted, but it's not showing here. Anyways, so there is a difference, right? A lot of difference. The Indian time is here this much. Here means we have to wait evening 11 p.m. That means here you can calculate that one, or you can take the different calculator. I don't know how this is not working maybe properly. Anyway, so that's how it is. So the basic the time that you given it is not the right time. So this thing. So if you want to change according to that, you can change it. Okay. And
It
also
would be
when
like 5.5. Sorry.
okay, that's great. Yeah, around 5.5 hours, right? So that means you can imagine how much different. So if this particular time is automatically this backup will get started. I mean initialize it. Okay, that's the thing. That is the reason what, but you understood now, no, how good it is. I mean automatically it got backup. So this also will take backup automatically. Now, okay, that's a thing. I think almost got created. And then what else we can see here? Apart from this one, backup is the first thing. Recovers as well. Yeah, rest all as expected, right? Even if you check the NSG also, you can check network security group or NSG and SG, right? You can type anything, looks fine. Now, this NSG, as I told you, this need to be associated to the subnet level. How can we check that one? If you go NSG, so there is a two rules. Yeah, interesting thing is we have to check the rule also that we have created. If you remember, this is the name we given at LORDP SSH. This is what I was explaining, right? They know it. They created the RDP port is 3389, SSH is 22, and which port need to enable everything. So how is it possible? How can we do that? This is all just piece of Terraform code. That's it. Because in the TF file also we pass the all the value, right? Here, see here, whatever name we given there and the NSG role priority be given LORDP, LOSSS, this name be given, what is the priority, what is the like direction, everything is given. That is the reason why we have it. Same way, now in the future, let's say you want to add some other uh, port. Let's say I want to create another port man. So what you can do is simply, you can create simply here, come here, you can just add one more block here like this. Now you can add here. Now you can define whatever port you can change here. Just keep doing that one. That means the more you have the roles for each role, as I mentioned, it will be unique for and everything. These are one properties for each role. So you can define like that. Okay. So yeah, so this one, as I mentioned, this is associated to the where subnet, right? Now, if you check the inbound role also, which one is the blocking or maybe things like that, you can check this also outbound as well. Same, you can check it. Coming to the subnet, as I just mentioned, let's wait, maybe it is loading. Now, as you can see, this particular network security group, this is the subnet, VNet subnet that VNet name, sorry, subnet name we created, right? This is what it got synced to here. I mean, interlink. Now, same thing, if you want to verify this one, normally if you search in the like that subnet, it will not work. There's nothing called a subnet here. You have to go to the under virtual network. Within the virtual network only, you can see the subnet. Say for example, this is the network name, that's a dev network. Within that, you can get a subnet. Okay, if you go here, because the subnet and VNet and the subnet works together, interlink. So now you can see here, whatever range you given, this shall be used. And if you can see here under the VNet, you can see the subnet. Then this particular subnet, how many IP is available, and what is the IP type. Also, we can see what is IP range. You can see, and also how many available IP, and also which particular network security group is used. As I mentioned, this is the security group I use for this particular subnet to be associated, right? So this is why I can see this also. But if you can see here, I don't have a route table here, but that's okay for now. Let's not go that in advance. Okay, for now this is more than enough. Okay, just practice this one as I mentioned, just same way. Then you'll get a lot of idea to explore and you'll think more actually. Okay, team. So yeah, that's all for today. Maybe we can wind up here. Maybe next week we'll start. We'll see what we can do for the next sessions. We will try to have at least 2-3 sessions on different scenarios. So yeah, I know today is the first day. It's a little lengthy, but next time we will keep in mind for at least 1.5 hours because we need to start the basic first, right? So that is why we have took a lot of time, but that's okay. Okay. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a nice weekend. Take it.